Low Fuel Motorsports with the original Assetto Corsa is absolutely fantastic. In this video I'm going to tell you why it's so good, what HUD elements I use in Assetto Corsa to make it look so good, and my hopes for the future of Low Fuel Motorsports with the original Assetto Corsa. You're going to click on my links. Need new wheel, click on my links. Juicy link, make your bank link. Clicking on link, don't dare think. DD girl, walk to the brink. She don't use no kitchen sink. Listen to my words, drink that tea. Regrettably, you follow me. Gamer muscle, gamer muscle, gamer muscle. Click subscribe and click that like. Click subscribe and click that like. On the first day of their alpha, Low Fuel Motorsport absolutely killed it. But before I get into the details, everyone keeps asking me what are those HUD elements that we have on our screen in Assetto Corsa and why does my game look so glorious? So to answer those people, the element on the top right with the leaderboard is part of Streaming Suite or BCast tools, and it's the leaderboard from that. I'll put a link in the description. You can get that leaderboard app. You can also click on the names and it'll jump to the cars, because the leaderboard was originally designed for people doing broadcasting rather than people using it to race with. Keep in mind, if you've got a slower computer, that leaderboard might cause some issues with performance. I don't have any issues with performance. They also have a lower, less demanding leaderboard as an option that you could use as well. That has the same functionality but doesn't look as nice. In the middle of the screen, underneath the mirror, we have the Race Essentials app, which has all the details there, but it's worth noting it's sort of been discontinued and it doesn't always work perfectly. Sometimes the tyre temperatures are a bit weird on it, especially with certain mods, and often the delta can be a little bit funky and weird on it at times, which is why we have the Performance Delta app, which is built into Assetto Corsa, part of Assetto Corsa, to the right of the mirror, and I've also enlarged that, so you've got the traditional Assetto Corsa Delta, and that always works super consistently. You can see if you've got a green sector, purple sector, or a brown sector. It's all very clear. That's fantastic, and as I say, built into the game. Then people keep asking about the car radar, which is underneath that Race Essentials, the third thing down from the mirror. The car radar app is built into Shader Patch, and you just select it from the right hand menu, and then you can tweak and adjust it. You can have it so it displays the car skin that you're driving. You can have it so it shows the road. You can zoom it in, you can zoom it out, you can tilt the angle. You can do whatever you want with it. It's amazing. Assetto Corsa, guys, it's almost like this simulator's probably one of the best, if not the best simulators ever made. So those are the main apps that we use there. Now, in terms of like the graphical quality, what I use is the latest Pure and Shader Patch. You can check the video that we did about 5 videos ago saying to get the latest version of that. You just get them. Then use the post-processing filter Pure Candy, which you can select from the menu, from the post-processing menu, and I go through the options and reduce the brightness. Now, I might do a separate video on those things in more detail, but that's an overview in like 30 seconds for those of you that keep asking. So in terms of Low Fuel Motorsport though, at the moment there's just 2 races running. You have an MX5 race and you have a LMP3 race. As you can see, the MX5 is taking place on Lime Rock Park chicane route, and the LMP3 is taking place at Le Mans Circuit de la Fromage. And well, the LMP3 car isn't exactly what I would have thought they would have picked, especially at that circuit. I can see why they maybe did. And the mod car they used is a bit weird, doesn't look too good, sounds terrible, but you can replace the sound in Assetto Corsa through content managers, so it's not really a problem. But the racing has been phenomenal with this, largely because of Assetto Corsa allowing you to have a little bit of car contact, and it's actually really contrasting when you drive the MX5 in AC versus iRacing, especially on this track, because this track often runs at iRacing. And so in AC you can have a little bit of contact, you can have much closer racing, the cars from the contact don't just auto bin or fly off the track, and then obviously AC's just got much better force feedback and a much more realistic tyre model in terms of the actual end drive. Less complex than iRacing, but much more realistic in terms of the end result than iRacing. So the racing that you get is absolutely superb. And LFM, with their servers, they've done a really good job of setting them up. One of the problems that you get with Assetto Corsa with servers is if you don't run enough tick rate or you set your servers up incorrectly, in AC you can get some rowboating issues with the cars, which can be really annoying, especially with faster cars, and I've not really noticed that being a problem with LFM. And also with AC, if someone's like really laggy, has really bad ping, you can sometimes get cars warping, which in the 10 hours that we did racing we saw happen once with a ghost car Schrodinger catting another car off the track. Fortunately, they were in front of me, so I gained 2 places, so it's perfectly acceptable. But, you know, it's either Tony Hawk's Pro Skateboarder iRacing kickflip over the top of the hill, which actually doesn't happen in Assetto Corsa, which is weird because you don't need to pay for AC servers monthly. So I don't know how they pull it off with AC, but, or you can have the flickering cars. Needless to say, I think iRacing might be in a bit of trouble with this. Like, if you're a more casual racer, which or sort of type of person that does a lot of the rookie racing, which makes up a lot of iRacing's user base, say you do like Formula Ford, MX-5 and that kind of stuff, I don't know why you would use that instead of LFM. Why would you? It doesn't make sense. Why would you spend that money? I mean, okay, arbitrarily you might like iRacing. I do like some aspects of iRacing. Maybe the rain and other features will come into it. I'm not saying there'll be no reason to play iRacing. I will still play iRacing even with LFM. But I think for a lot of people, this is actually going to be enough for them. Now, with this being the limited test of LFM, their alpha, I say only here, they only have 150 slots for each hour for the MX-5 and the LMP3. And hilariously, by midday, every single hour, the races were fully registered to the point where you couldn't, they ran out of slots on the servers for like 8 hours straight. 40 minutes before each race, there was 150 people registered to them. I mean, absolutely insane, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, people won't be bothered to set up AC. You do have to get Soul, you have to get Content Manager. Unless you're like an old school miserable AC fan, maybe people won't come to it or won't be interested. Well, the opposite couldn't be more true. This was absolutely flooded. And then when you consider that LMP3 car and the Le Mans track are both rando mods and not exactly the peak of what people generally want to be racing, for that to be ramshackled full of people non-stop is crazy, and shows you the demand for good quality online ranked racing, which is something I've been saying for like a decade, and I can't believe the games industry and games companies have completely ignored it at their own financial loss. But yeah, so needless to say, at the moment, on the first day, and from looking at it today as well, LFM has just been super active. Participation looks really good. It'll be super interesting to see if that continues, and if that continues into the future with whatever combos they tend to run. But we all know already from the back end of LFM with the Assetto Corsa Competizione that their points tracking and their license tracking and their moderation is really good. I mean, I think LFM moderation, it's not perfect. None of these systems are perfect, but I think it's one of the better ones. And people get warnings and bans. They're harsher than iRacing, which in some ways is bad, you know. But in other ways, they have limited resources and they have to moderate it, and you want the racing to be as clean as possible. So running it a bit like a gulag, I think is quite a good idea. So the back end's already there. The servers are demonstrated. AC's a fantastic sim, and AC with LFM, with the clicking on a button and launching into the game and doing the races, you couldn't really ask for more. Now, you know, I mean, I will say, obviously, I do think with AC, unfortunately, you can't not mention the curbing, especially with this MX-5 on this track and a bunch of tracks. Curbing in AC, unless there are some mod tracks that flatten the curbs, and there are some ways around it. Some cars aren't as bad as others, but generally speaking, curbing in Assetto Corsa is absolutely terrible. So you have to really drive off the curbing, which is annoying, especially if you play a lot of other simulators. And I will also say as well, though you can have more car contact and it's more forgiving generally speaking than many other sims, it's not as good car contact as Race Room or R Factor 2, and you will find there are certain situations, like if the car puts their nose in on the inside, or when the car's under sustained load for a corner, it's harder to spin or crash off than iRacing, but still very sensitive, especially more sensitive, I'd say, than than R-Factor 2 and Race Room. But all in all, as far as like online ranked racing goes, you're gonna have a good time. Like, this is such a good format. The race length, the MX5 as well, especially just doing sprint racing, and then the potential of having organised races in the future with LFM and other content will be fantastic. Look, see how I took him out there. Great. I mean, he turned into me. What I will say as well, this is obviously alpha. From the 8 or so races that we did yesterday, the vast majority of people were driving really clean, and the driving was just really good. But there were quite a few drivers with hot lap mentality and just really bad racecraft. So I think hopefully LFM will moderate things moving forwards, and you know, the penalty system and the safety rate stuff will be dialed in. Maybe splits and it be more active and separating drivers out will help with that as well. That, I'd say, it's sort of on a par with iRacing in terms of cleanliness of driving at the moment. R-Factor 2 generally was, when I do R-Factor 2 ranked system, not an LFM, I think that's probably one of the cleanest, which is a mixture of their car contacts as well as just the rules and how people tend the type of driver in that sim. So I'd say this is fairly similar to iRacing in terms of driver behaviour, but absolutely fantastic. So, as I say, the really interesting thing will be moving forwards and what cars and tracks they pick. I do think the LMP3 car and Le Mans was a really weird pick. I don't think it's necessarily the best of picks, but I can see why they did it for their choice for testing and stuff. And it's actually turned out to be quite fun. A bit weird, but quite fun. But I do worry that a lot of fans of AC and in general will be like, we need this random car, let's do that, we need to change this, we need this, we need that, we want this different thing. It's always the same cars and tracks. Like, they missed the point that, as I said this a billion times in live streams, online ranked racing is about the racing more than it is the content. So you want a car and track that allows for good online racing. So I'm not the biggest fan of MX5s, but the fact is they are very accommodating and they do produce really good online racing. I would say the same for like GT4 cars in particular, Radical SR3, the Megane Trophy V6, cars that have quite a tight profile, quite forgiving slip, also fast enough to then drive on tracks like Spa, and there's a bunch of circuits that are longer tracks that are terrible with slow cars but okay with faster cars. And then on the track side of things, AC is actually, because the tyres are so good for driving on the limit, you have tracks that are rubbish in other sims that are actually quite fun in AC. But you know, Lime Rock Park, Brands Hatch, Road Atlanta, Road America, Laguna Seca, yeah, there's a whole list of tracks that, from myself having done a decade of server hosting and iRacing and playing online, there's a whole host of tracks that I know are on average going to produce very good racing. They might not be the most exciting tracks, you might be a little bit bored of them, but the focus is trying to actually win and have good racecraft. The thing I always bring up is, look at Counter-Strike. It has like 5 maps that people play and 12 guns, and most people use 3 guns. Look at Rocket League. It has basically 1 car and a 5-a-side football pitch that doesn't change, and you can play that. I've played that for far too much time, I'm not ashamed to say. So it's more about, with ranked online racing, it's more about having lots of people in a ranked system, multiple splits, active races, than the individual cars. Though, fortunately, Assetto Corsa's physics are so damn good, actually getting faster and honing your lap times and balancing the vehicle is intrinsically fun. Whereas I find with, again, to neg on iRacing again, I find the driving in iRacing is just really boring and dull. I'd also say the same thing for ACC. It's just boring to drive, which is really funny because the GT3 cars in AC1 and in R-Factor 2 and in Race Room are not boring. They're not dull and boring. They're fun to actually just hot lap in. But in iRacing and ACC, both those sims require this sort of robotic Guitar Hero approach, which saps the soul and joy out of racing. Sorry, fans of those sims, but you know what I'm saying is true, so deal with it. So, yeah, just this is on another level. I can't say it more clearly, guys. This is the dream for Assetto Corsa. I think Sim Racing System set the groundwork and demonstrated that the ranking thing is great, but I just think with Sim Racing System, they didn't have the resources, the back-end structure and the support to be able to deliver it to what's the sort of base requirement and sort of a sustainable level, whereas I think LFM actually does and have demonstrated that, as I say, with ACC. Also, LFM has its own user base, largely in thanks to ACC and what it established with that. So I kind of have to be thankful to Assetto Corsa Competition, have to be thankful for Kunos skillfully dropping the ball with no ranking with ACC, which allowed LFM to come in and then do all their events and then build that user base up, which then they can bring to AC. It's a bit of a convoluted way to come full circle to the glorious Big Daddy proper simulator Assetto Corsa, but here we are. We've actually got there. eventually we've got there. We've all died of old age, but we've eventually got there. So with LFM, I believe they're going to continue doing the alpha for the next week or so, and I think the probably until after Christmas the proper release of this Assetto Corsa support will come out. We'll just have to wait and see what they do. But from the one day that we've had with it so far, I would highly recommend supporting LFM on their Patreon. And if you haven't given it a go, you need to just get on and drive it and experience this for yourself. We will be doing more racing with subscribers, and we'll try and mix in the LFM tracks when we do that. Also on our Discord, we'll be sharing car setups. The races are all open setup on LFM at the moment. I think they might do some fixed setup stuff, but for the open setup, I don't really mind open setup as long as everybody has access to a good setup, and I'm in a position to have a socialist setup sharing cabal. So you can come to our Discord or join in our practice races, and we'll just give setups out. It's better for everyone. The closer the racing, that's what we're here for. Racing. We're not here for one guy miles ahead, or like the whole mid-pack field of people to be all spread out because of setup. Not, you know, you want to push things together as much as possible. I get open setup. I understand why you might want that, but you know, you just need a good baseline setup that's competitive, and then everyone can be happy. So that is it really for this video. I just wanted to let you guys know that how good LFM is. Huge credit to them, and yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. We'll have more content coming soon, more Assetto Corsa, more live streams, more tea bags. So make yourselves a cup of tea, drink it, and until the next video, thank you for watching, take care, and goodbye everyone.